Hello again. Well, it's been a while, primarily due to the fact that we've had probably the longest stretch of astronomy unfriendly weather in the UK in recorded history. It's either been cloudy, or it's been throwing down with rain, or it's been snowing, or something. It's just been absolutely awful. In fact, since Christmas, we've probably had maybe 7 days of clear nights where I live, which is unfortunate because I've been meaning to do a review on a camera, which is this one. These are actually the mono and the colour version of the QHY IMGOH, and now I feel that I've got enough data to be able to sort of provide some feedback from it and to just show a couple of pictures. Firstly, though, I would just like to say a big thank you to the people that came to Astrofest in London last month, and who took the time to come up to me and say thanks a lot for the videos and everything. It just I just really appreciate the fact that there are people out there that appreciate these stupid videos. There was one particular gentleman who insisted on having his photograph taken with me and everything, and I'll just give you a quick look at that. All right, so it was probably me that kidnapped Brian for the photograph, but there we go. Right, back onto the review, and just a quick word about reviews in general. What we tend to find with the birth of the internet is that reviews of equipment and software, they tend to be timeless with regards to the internet. Whereas at one time a magazine review was done of a piece of equipment, and maybe it was not a great review. The issue would get fixed, and a later magazine would maybe review it again and say, there it is, and it's all singing and all dancing, and now everything's really good. 9 times out of 10, if you research a piece of equipment on the internet, you're going to come up with the old stuff, and sometimes it paints a rather jaded picture of what that equipment is actually really all about. That's the case with QHY. In the past, they did have a couple of issues with drivers for the IMGOH and just software in general, which I'm glad to see has been ironed out, and now QHY are completely on the ball with regards to the drivers and the software, and it's getting updated on a regular basis even now, which I'm pleased to say. So onto the IMGOH. Well, it's a planetary camera predominantly, and lunar. Now, if you get any of the experts and you say, I'm looking for a lunar and planetary camera, what would you suggest? 9 people out of 10 are going to say to you, go for the 618 chip. It's a chip by Sony, a CCD chip, and it's just the baby at the moment. It's just the flavour of the month, if you like. The 618 chip is just a really good chip for astronomy, and that's the chip that's used in the IMGOH. Now, the IMGOH comes in 2 flavours. It comes in the colour version and it comes in a mono version. So which one should you choose? Well, that's entirely personal. Okay, the mono one is more sensitive. It will pull in more detail. But like I said, it's an entirely personal thing. You see, the mono one will pull in more detail. The colour one will obviously, show in colour. The reason why the mono is usually more sensitive in chips than the colour one is because the colour has what they call the Bayer matrix over the front of the chip, that is sort of a layer and some clever electronics that basically gets the red, the green and the blue and splits it up and then merges it all back together and give you a colour image, where a mono doesn't have to do that. It doesn't have to do all that messing about, and it just basically has to show shades of light, if you like, really, from sort of white to black. Obviously, with the colour, then the pixels have actually got to be shared between red ones, green ones, and blue ones, and that's why predominantly the mono versions are more sensitive. But as I said again, it goes deeper than that. It's more personal. For me, it's colour every time, because especially in the UK with the weather how it is and imaging time being at a premium, I just want to get out and I want to set my telescope up and I want to put my camera in and start taking my images. If you want to get colour out of a mono camera, then you're going to have to start using RGB filters and swapping filters out, or using filter wheels and adding more equipment in your chain, and it's just not for me. So it is something to think about if you whether you choose sort of mono or colour. As I said, for me, it's colour every time, and I will show some images done with the colour and with the mono, and to be honest, there's not a great deal in it. Some of the experts will tell you that a mono is 2/3 more sensitive than a colour. I'm not going to start quoting specifics like that, because to your eye, it's different again. So let's just have a look at the cameras themselves. The build quality is very, very good. They're a very solid piece of kit. They come with the nose piece already fitted, and there is already an IR cut filter built into these. It's on the inside there. I don't know, you'll probably not even be able to see it. You may just get a view of the chip in there. And the reason why is that the unit is almost sealed, and there's a specific reason for that as well. You see, a lot of the 618 chip cameras, they are basically a planetary and lunar camera, and it stops there. And what they do is they cool the chip passively, which means that the chip is in some way connected to the casing on the camera itself. So they use the casing of the camera as a heatsink. Well, the IMGOH doesn't. What that does is it uses active cooling. It's got a tech device in there, sometimes known as a Peltier, that is connected to the imaging chip, and then it uses then the casing as the heatsink for the Peltier. What does that mean? Well, the thing is that the IMGOH then has an extra little trick up its sleeve, and that is that it does long exposure. So it's possible using this camera not only to do planetary and lunar, but also to do some of the brighter and smaller planetary nebulas and even tiny galaxies and stuff, if you couple it up to the right scope. A little bit about the chip size in it. It's a native resolution of 640 by 480, which is about the same as the average web camera that everybody used to use, which was the Philips 2 cams. The chip's exactly the same size, like the SPC 900 as well. So if you previously used a webcam and it's a major upgrade that you're looking at, then this is the one for you. And the long exposure is just an added benefit. Not only that, long exposure, really, even 1 second is long exposure. This will do it to a couple of minutes, but even at 1 second, and the reason being, if you're using a long focal length scope and you're putting Barlows on there to sort of boost something such as Uranus or even Neptune, to get it to a size that's respectable in your scope, 9 times out of 10, if you use a planetary camera, you're not going to see anything because there's just not enough light there. This camera will do it, because you just can up the exposure that little bit, turn the cooling on and just up the exposure, and you will get images of those planets, and I will show you a couple that I did, using the colour version. And at the end of the day, the long exposure doesn't make a difference to detail with such as Uranus and Neptune, because you're just going to get a blue orb, really. It's it's just the fact that you've managed to image it that's a bonus. Now, I haven't got any images of the deeper space stuff, but I will show you a couple of images that have been done with a long exposure webcam. What you've got to do is just look at those and consider that this will do it a lot better. And as I said, it depends on what scope you couple it to. Obviously, you've got to have quite a wide aperture on that scope to number one, to be able to pull it in, but also you need quite a wide field for a lot of stuff. And in fact, you could add a wide field adapter onto this, also known as a focal reducer, a 0.5 focal reducer. They cost about maybe 25 UK pounds, and you can fit one of them and it will give you that wider field. So like I said, the build quality is great. There is actually 3 ports on these cameras. It's got the normal USB port that you would expect for connecting to your laptop. There's also a guiding port on it, so you can use these cameras for guiding. Now, the 3rd port is for the power supply. Now, because it's actively cooled, you don't just get the camera in the package. You also get the power distribution box, which is this, and then the necessary lead to connect it to the actual camera. Now, we'll just give you a closer look at this box. There you are, like so. And it does have 2 switches on it. One is the power switch, and one is the tech switch. Tech is another word for the Peltier, which is the active cooling. So you can turn the cooling on and off using this box. Now, if you're just doing normal planetary work or lunar work, you won't be using the cooling on it. Just leave it switched off. If you're doing sort of some longer exposure, then turn the cooling on, because it reduces the noise dramatically. The software that comes with the camera is very, very clever. It'll actually integrate darks into it. You just basically click the integrated darks section on the software, put the cover onto your scope and just let it take as many darks as you've told it to do. It'll do that, then it'll tell you to take the cover off and it'll integrate your darks into your images as it takes them. It's all very, very clever, but it's also quite simple. The software that comes with it is called Easy Planetary, and I quite like it myself. It's if you've used SharpCap, it's just slightly more upmarket from SharpCap, a little bit more feature filled. Also, the camera itself, because it's such a technical camera, you can go as deep as you like within the software. There are actually some expert settings in there that when you first start off you can leave them completely alone and they won't do any harm to your imaging whatsoever. As you get more advanced, you can start sort of altering these expert settings and you know, try and improve your images even further. As I said, I will show you some images very shortly, and I'll also show you some images taken with the mono and with the colour so that you compare. So let's just take a look at a couple of images taken with it. Okay, these first three were taken with a Skywatcher SkyMax 180 scope, often known as the Mac 180. These were taken with a ×2 Barlow and using the IMGOH mono version. And you know, I'm quite happy with them. In fact, I'm very delighted with them. They've just come out really, really well. Moving over to the next image, what we used here was exactly the same setup, but this is with the colour camera. That's the IMGOH colour. Now next we did a complete transfer. This is using a different scope entirely. This was the colour version of the IMGOH and connected to a TS65. That's a telescope service 65mm refractor. And what we'll do is just also have a look at a quick zoom in as well. This is actually a mosaic of about 9 panels, and we'll just sort of zoom into a little section of it like so. Like I said, this is, you know, I'm quite happy with it. Next, let's have a look at some planetary. Obviously, this is done with the colour version. This is a Jupiter and showing 3 of the moons there and the details there nicely. That's again is taken with the Mac 180, as is this one. Obviously, conditions weren't as good for this one, but you know, everything's there. And next, we've got a Uranus and Neptune, both again taken with the Mac 180 with a ×2 Barlow. And finally, although I did say that I didn't have any deep sky images taken with the IMGOH, I have been allowed to use these by a member of the Astrobin website called YanP29. He basically said that these were done as tests and he didn't put a great deal of effort into them, but I'm sure you'll agree that it definitely shows that the camera has got some potential for taking some quite nice deep sky images. So, in conclusion, what do I think about the IMGOH? I like it a lot, and it's definitely a keeper. Now, a couple of little tips for you if you do buy one of these is, the first thing is, I've stuck on a self-adhesive cable clip on the side of it. It just helps to keep things nice and tidy when you've got these cables trailing out, that you can just clip them on the side. It just provides some strain relief for you know, for your cables. Another thing is, because it's a camera that you can chill down and it will cool the chip to below 0, I would recommend that you buy yourself one of these. I've introduced these before. This is a sealable lunchbox. They've got sort of a rubberized seal on the lid. Inside there I keep a couple of the desiccant packs that you find in various pieces of electrical equipment and stuff, but also you can just buy anywhere pretty cheaply on the internet. And what I do is I just keep this lunchbox with those in, and I place my camera in there and just keep it sealed up until I want to use it. The reason being that it keeps everything dry in there, and if you do come to use the Peltier on the, you know, the active cooling on the camera, it's going to stop there being any moisture inside the camera that will actually frost on the front of the sensor. And in actual fact, I have frosted the sensor on mine once, although my excuse is that I was at a star party, it rained most of the time, the camera was left outside connected to the telescope with just one of these telescope covers over the top, so you know, it wasn't the fault of the camera, it was just entirely mine really. But yeah, other than that, I do like the camera and I'm having some great fun with it. I know that I haven't used it to its full potential yet, and that's just entirely due to the UK weather, but it's definitely a keeper for me. So once again, thanks for watching.